So while the economy has fairly come back from the strong crisis, it's still hard for the average American to deal with the skyrocketing inflation and even higher cost of everyday necessities. However, many lawmakers are starting to take notice and make the call for more financial assistance now. The good news is that many people will not have to wait long or too long before they finally receive another stimulus check. According to a new report, the latest increase in price that has been felt by Americans has been seen at the gas pump, which sits at a nationwide average around $4.32 per gallon. That's the highest prices in the country. They're currently being in California, where the current average of gas is around $5.73 a gallon. So with prices so high, and in such a short period of time, new calls are going around for a stimulus check or a similar payment from the federal government. During an interview with CNN, Mark Wolf, the executive director of the National Energy Assistance Director Association, urged the government to help low and moderate income families with another stimulus payment. Now then as it becomes more difficult to continue keeping up with the rising costs, they cited a new report that estimated inflation has increased monthly costs by $276 a month, and that soaring fuel prices could skyrocket these costs to more than $300 a month. In his call, the executive director stated that a direct payment through the IRS should be targeted to those earning less than 8% of the national median income, which would help those who need the assistance the most while keeping the cost of the program low. He states that Congress should authorize one $1,100 payment per household to pay for 4 months of prices, and then provide an option which would allow the president to provide other checks at a later date if prices continue to remain high. And the good news is that the Biden administration has indicated that there are always discussions about bringing a new round of aid to Americans. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom made a modest proposal early this year, which was to pause the gas tax increase for 1 year. He urged that he did not want to let the tax go up by 3 cents this year. The Newsom administration described it as an effort to potentially lower the price of gas and provide some relief to customers. But some leaders of the majority Democratic legislature, which Newsom would need to get on board with his plan, are not wild about the idea, saying our focus cannot be a small cut to the gas tax that might not get onto consumers. But Gavin Newsom has already told Californians that he's working on a potential rebate to offset the cost of escalating gas prices that broke the country records. During his State of the State address, Newsom told residents of California no one's naive about the moment that we're living in, with high gas prices and the political uncertainty that's fueling them. California gas prices, everybody, are among the highest in the country. So I believe that a state stimulus check could definitely help us out and definitely solve the situation. If you guys agree with me, tell me in the comments down below.
And send it to my desk. It's important for our economy, and I would argue for our national security as well. We're also leading on the global stage because of you all. I'm pleased to see American companies stepping up and doing their part in what you're doing in terms of donating to Ukraine and winding down your operations without anybody requesting. I want to make that clear. You're on your own winding down operations in Russia. Not all, but many have. Not only you, but around the world. And for the first time on that subject, let me say this. For the first time, that Putin began massing troops along the Ukrainian border, I called for an emergency meeting of NATO in Europe to make the case that we had to be united. The one thing I'm confident, knowing Putin fairly well as I guess another leader can know one another, is that he was counting on being able to split NATO. He never thought NATO would stay resolved, stay totally, thoroughly united. And I can assure you, NATO has never been stronger or more united in its entire history than it is today, in large part because of Vladimir Putin. And but in response to his aggression, there has been we presented a united front throughout NATO and in the Pacific. The Quad is, with the possible exception of India being somewhat shaky on some of this, but Japan has been extremely strong. So has Australia, in terms of dealing with Putin's aggression. We presented a united front throughout NATO and the Pacific, and you did a hell of a lot to help us impose sanctions and incur real cost on the Russian economy. And we're seeing now that it mattered. It was really important what you all did, not every one of you, but I'm not suggesting you all had to, but those of you who did step up, it made a big difference. And I'm personally, as president, grateful for that. But because our response is working, because Ukrainians are fighting so valiantly, and using the equipment we've given them. And the United States alone has committed over $2 billion to NATO. The idea that they don't have enough sophisticated equipment is just simply not accurate. And I'm not going to take the time to go into all the detail here, but the point is they have every equipment, every piece of equipment that makes rational sense based on our military and NATO's military for them to be able to.
Tax credits are dollar-for-dollar reductions in a person's tax liability versus deductions that lower a person's overall taxable income. The most parents can receive from the tax credit is $8,000, which applies to families with 2 or more children. The expanded tax break lets families claim a credit worth 50% of their child care expenses, which can be up to $16,000 for 2 or more kids. In other words, families with 2 kids who spend at least $16,000 on daycare in 2021 can get $8,000 back from the IRS through the expanded child tax credit. Through the expanded credit. Prior to the American Rescue Plan, parents could only claim 35% of a maximum of $6,000. That's all in child care expenses for 2 children. Parents and people with dependents who paid for the care of a qualifying individual in order to work or look for work during 2021 are also eligible for the expanded tax credit. Following the beginning of the crisis, both the former president and Joe Biden's administration organized stimulus checks, officially called EIP payments or economic impact payments. 3 different stimulus checks were sent out to low and medium income families, with a check of $1,200 in April 2020, one of $600 in December 2020, and one of $1,400 in March 2021. Many people have not claimed the full amount of stimulus money that they were entitled to. It isn't too late though, as these people may still be able to backdate their stimulus checks. According to the IRS, if you didn't qualify for a third economic impact payment, got less than a full amount, you may be eligible to claim the 2021 recovery rebate credit when you file your 2021 tax return. But everybody, it's important to remember that you must file a return or claim even if you don't usually file a tax return. The credit is based on your 2021 tax year information, so any third EIP payment you received will reduce the amount of credit you're eligible for.
Temporarily suspending the gas tax to the tune of 18 cents. Oh, and excluding diesel. A slap in the face to truckers and a further burden on the supply chain. Oh, and just to make the political games transparent, they want this to expire right after the midterms, as soon as the next Congress is sworn in. Democrats want to blow a $20 billion hole in highway funding so they can try to mask the effects of their own liberal policies on working Americans. They've spent the entire year waging a holy war on affordable American energy, and now they want to use a pile of taxpayers' money